Implants. In the current context, implants refer to a mental or spiritual attitude, viewpoint, belief or perspective visited upon a person without their cognizance or knowledge. A physical example would be a bacterium or parasite appended to the body without invitation or prior approval. Much has been written in other modalities on this subject, with many esoteric explanations and science fiction-y attempts at explanation, including between lives areas and such like. Whilst not wishing to disregard these writings and acknowledging some of their content as valid for advanced study, for current purposes I prefer to avoid such explanations, finding they do little to aid immediate understanding, but rather add whole heaps of significance and mystery, giving little of benefit for immediate or practical application. Examples fairly litter the ground. Education and child rearing are obvious areas where children are subjected to societal indoctrinations on all manner of subjects as determined by the mores of the societal unit. The child absorbs these as much through example as formal teaching, having no idea his thought patterns are being rigged to certain responses of societal or tribal appropriateness. Nothing new here. For 2,000 years, one of the world's largest religions has been stating, "Give me the child till he's 5 and we'll have him for the rest of his life." This process is often referred to as social conditioning, which is a fair enough term. It also happens to be only one of the ways that implanting can be successfully implemented. Pavlov's famous experiments paved the way for a whole technology of stimulus response control implantation. Though why this was heralded as a discovery amuses me, as pain impulse inducement has been well known and practiced since ancient times. More recently, every nation of the 20th century has practiced pain or fear control in one form or another as an official policy, ranging from public school caning through to sleep deprivation and torture as a normal part of political programming. All of these are methods of implanting behavioural characteristics and forcing conduct along lines designed to advantage a power elite or a tribal society. So the point is well made that there's not a lot that's really new here, except that now for the first time we have some effective ways to dig our way out. Every implant relies on invisibility for power. Once the ruse has been seen, the conditioning is broken comparatively easily, with resumption of the person back to his original state before the interference occurred. The much proclaimed, though crude, practices of brainwashing, as practiced by the Russians, Viet Minh and North Koreans, were found not to be of much practical use when imposed on operatives or servicemen who had been trained in countering the brutalizing techniques involved. Even pain drug hypnosis proved to be less than reliable under similar circumstances. And so it is with case implants, which are only active so long as they remain undetected and unsuspected within the mind or attitude of the person. There are many sorts of implants visited on the person in a variety of ways, and the main way of countering all of them is through knowledge. Obviously, ignorance isn't going to get us very far, so as with most other things, the more we know, the better we're in control of the situation. The most insidious and unsuspected area of implanting occurs through autonomic responses of the mind that we unfortunately all are heir to. Various things happen in the outside world which impinge on us in a variety of ways, triggering certain automatic and defensive responses, which in turn show up in inappropriate and aberrant behaviours, over which, through ignorance, the person has no control. Examples include kleptomania, agoraphobia, and a whole host of other manias and phobias that are pretty easy to see. Less suspected are the more moderate illnesses or idiocies that are accepted as normal in the somewhat unwell society of ours. Triggers are tripped in the mind, which then enacts preconditioned responses without our having any say in the matter. Anything that found its way into your mind without your prior knowledge could be generally considered an implant. These may be as simple as taking on board another's viewpoint without realizing you've been influenced into a change of mind. Thus, many a bad financial deal has been entered into through being talked into it, whereas left to one's own devices or relying on one's own inclinations, one wouldn't normally have reached for the situation. Obviously, awareness and ability to recognize one's own inclinations, that's our platform, is a major issue here. The credulous, gullible, and those not street smart in the ways of the world or inexperienced are sitters for easy implantation from those who would control us for devious purposes. So the issue of platform is a high priority to be addressed as soon as possible. A process of education, information, and personal application best meets this need. But there are more insidious and subtle influences involved than the simple illustrations made above. And these, combined with our own ignorance of such matters, are continually our downfall. The child subjected to Uncle Arthur's violently abusive and dominating proclivities is all unaware that various moral and ethical attitudes are being implanted both by word and example. Until subjected to inadequate technology capable of unravelling the effects of these contaminations, the client has no other option than to suppress and bravely endeavour to paint over, or shopfront, the crumbling brickwork, pretending that all is now well. Unfortunately, when we paint over rust, we still got rust, albeit looking nice for a short time. And sadly, quite a few of the personal improvement modalities being presented for consumption to an eager market, though frequently well-meaning, are at base seldom more than different ways of painting over the rust and kidding ourselves it has been handled. Though a couple of dramatic examples have been given to highlight the area, it must not be inferred that we are only dealing with the extreme results end of the spectrum. Every person suffers from this situation, though to varying degrees of severity, and all are thereby disadvantaged from full enjoyments of their life situations. It is part and parcel of the human condition to be carrying around a bag full of unsuspected implants controlling attitudes, thought processes, and inability to achieve a halfway reasonable condition of platform stability. It is a reasonable statement that everyone could benefit, though some would certainly benefit more than others. Nor must it be inferred that here we necessarily have a fast-track, quick-fix magic pill. Some people can be coming from a long way south, with conditions needing substantial overhaul, whilst others may experience a less fraught journey. It is a very subjective and individual road, a thing that peddlers of the fast fix would do well to acknowledge. This paper intends only to open the area up for future inspection and couldn't possibly hope to cover all the implantation techniques and methods, much less expose treatments for each of them, which are more adequately covered one by one in other discussion papers. For full therapeutic competence, it's necessary to enter into relevant trainings and extended study, particularly if one wishes to become a practitioner and be able to deliver relief for others. Not everyone's quite so keen, and that's okay, as much can still be learned of assistance to oneself and one's immediate friends and environment.